Hey traders, how's it going? I wanted to hop on live today just because I was going to watch the market open, see if we can get any trades. Sometimes the market open is super volatile. Sometimes, most of the time, there's not a whole lot going on. But with all the events this weekend, definitely could be a crazy open. So wanted to watch. So I'm kind of going to be paying attention to NQ and gold. I know obviously it might seem too obvious, but my thought is short NQ, long gold. But I'm not going to jump on anything immediately. I'm guessing just first thought would be a gap down on NQ and a gap up on gold, but we shall see. I'm not afraid to just jump into a position based on momentum. I mean, if it's crazy like up and down volatility, then I'll probably stay out. But if it's just like a gap down and then it continues to jump, I am not afraid to get into a small position and just kind of ride that momentum. I have a couple levels marked here, kind of zooming out. I mean, it's sitting right at VWAP, just below. It's sitting right at Friday's point of control. So if it rejects, there's quite a bit of room to the downside. I do like to look at session volume profile. If you guys pay attention to point of controls often get tested, very similar to like a gap. At some point, they often get retested. So here's one right here at 21,716. So I'm actually going to draw a little line there. As kind of a point of interest to the downside. And then of course we have these areas of like support and resistance down here too. 650-ish. And if I remember right, there is a little gap. Let me zoom to the left. I'll go to the 5-minute just to make it a little bit easier to see. There was a gap in the open right here at like 728, something like that. Yeah. 720-ish, which is right around that point of control. So I could see where that would be a great target to the downside. If that's how we open, if that's where we're headed. So we got about 6 minutes. This would be a good stop loss area. So just kind of playing around with scenarios like where did my favorites toolbar go? There we go. I lost it. If we were to open up short, I mean, there could be a gap down, so that may not be like the entry point, but stop loss somewhere up here and then target like somewhere down there. I could see maybe that type of scenario. But again, I'm guessing we don't open up right there. We'll probably open up lower. Tell me in the chat, you guys, what are you thinking? What are you expecting at the open? Definitely be sizing down if I'm going to take a trade because I'm guessing it's going to be moving quickly if there's the type of volatility that I'm expecting there to be. How's it going, Paul? Hey, 8 Mile Style, what's happening? I'm curious your guys' thoughts. on what you think in the open. Are you kind of leaning in the same direction as me? Short NQ, long gold, or is that too obvious? I'm wondering if that's the case too. Or you never know. It could be a snail's pace open, like a lot of times Asia Open is. I usually watch it, and every once in a while it moves a lot. But often it doesn't. Often it's very slow. It's like watching paint dry. So Paul, do you think it's just gonna open up and like slow ride up to the moon? Or do you think it's gonna like gap up big time? Yeah, Jen, I would say oil up. I don't trade, I've never traded oil. So I would guess up just based on news and like the announcement of that canal being closed down. But I don't feel confident enough in actually taking a trade on it. Yeah, down NQ, crude and gold up. You think a gap up on the open? Interesting. What makes you... Oh, for gold. Gotcha. I was thinking NQ. I was like, gap up on NQ. Weird. Yeah. I'm worried about like if it's a big gap up on gold or a big gap down on NQ. I'm wondering if it's going to be one of those things where it like bounces real quick and fills the gap, or if it's going to continue down. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Z Rooney, I have been trading. I'm pretty new, honestly. I started my first prop firm account in September of 2024, so I'm pretty new. I've taken quite a few payouts though, so I've managed to be a profitable trader though, between what I've actually paid in terms of evals and then the payouts that I've taken. I'm in the green, so that's cool. I still have a lot to learn though, so I definitely would not call myself an expert for sure. So I've been trading since September of last year. So September this year will be 1 year. Thanks. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. I still, like I said, I have a lot to learn, a long way to go. But the cool thing is that I like it. I enjoy it. So I'm like driven to learn more and get better all the time. All right, less than a minute until we open. Let's see how this craziness goes. Drum roll, dun dun dun. Are we gonna get what we expected? Big drop on NQ. Big pump on gold. What's it gonna be? Oh my goodness. It's not even on my screen. Holy cow. That's pretty crazy. Man, I think that's the biggest gap I've ever seen on an open. What is that? 216 points? That's just wild. So getting a little bounce up. I doubt it goes all the way back up and fills that gap though. Well, it might go up to that gap. Let's see. Are there any big levels to the left that it bounced off of? There's a little bit of liquidity there. So gold did have a big gap up. And starting to come back down and fill that gap a little bit. Any of you DGens taking any trades on this so far? So I kind of feel like it's going to get a little bit of a bounce and then probably continue down. I don't see it actually totally filling that gap because that'd be, a 200 point pump. So I think what I'm going to do is put a little anchored VWAP here and see if it starts to get some momentum back down and cross and possibly take a short off of that. It's already moved quite a bit in the open. It's been 130 point move or so, or more actually. From like that bounce is 149 points, 150 points. So yeah. Scary times unless you size down a lot. That buy up is starting to slow down a little bit. These are still big moves though. Like for a Sunday night open, having these 1 minute candles be like 20 plus points, that's pretty big. Bigger than normal for sure. Let's see, if it were to cross that anchor VWAP right there, what are we looking at in terms of risk? See, that's still a 47 point stop loss if we were to put it up above that high. It's quite a bit. Definitely leaning towards shorts. I would just want to see how much it's going to bounce up because that's a big gap right there. I would want to see momentum going back to the downside if we were to take a short. So I have NQ up here. Is anyone else watching oil or gold or anything like that? Or planning on taking any trades on those? Oil oil had a big gap up as well, similar to gold. Still getting a little bit of a bounce. Let's see if we have any local resistance where it might reject. We could come up to value area low, but that's a pretty high up spot. This red line that I had drawn was that point of control from Thursday's session, I think it was. So it was sometime last week. So that could be an area of resistance too. That's kind of where it's at right now. Still hasn't shown any momentum back to the downside yet. Again, kind of just being patient, seeing how far up into this gap it's actually going to bounce, and then start to see sellers show up. Ideally, get back below this anchored VWAP. We could come back up to this value area low, which was pretty good support for all of Friday's session. And that's only about 50 points away from where we're at right now. So if it gets up there, we can see how it reacts at that level. It looks like it's a slow grind up, but these are big 1 minute candles for a 5 o'clock Sunday night open, or 6 o'clock if you're Eastern time. All right, still getting those buyers stepping up, coming up closer to that value area low, which I know is just a line drawn on a chart from the session volume profile, but even if you look to the left, there was quite a bit of support there, so that could serve as some resistance. And this gray shaded area is just kind of a general high volume area from a visible range volume profile is how I use to market, what I use to market. So a lot of times price likes to return to those levels, and they can serve as support or resistance. So possible that we get some sort of rejection from this level before continuing lower. Gonna wait and see how that plays out. Was anyone brave enough to take a long on that on NQ to go for the gap fill? Or a short on gold. I guess that could have been a play too. I figured we would open up with a big gap down, but I was kind of wondering if the momentum would just continue down. I wasn't expecting an immediate bounce at the beginning. Yeah, same thing, Paul. I'm not trying to predict anything here, but I don't see it coming all the way up. That would be a huge buy up with all the negative stuff we have going on right now. I kind of see this general area as a spot where it could reject, which is kind of starting to right now. Let's see if it starts to get towards this VWAP and crosses or closes below. Then I'd feel a little bit better about sellers being back in control. Kind of got stuck there. What are we going to do? Well, the volatility definitely died down. We got a nice bounce at the open. Now we don't have a whole lot going on. Ooh, Carol got long. Yeah, I didn't expect this much of a retrace for sure, or a bounce. It's kind of up in that spot where I feel like could be a good spot for resistance. But we're not getting strong enough selling pressure to convince me yet. Just kind of thinking through scenarios, like if I was to take a short here, I would still want to leave my stop loss up towards value area low to give it room to move up there. That's way too much. That's like 67 points. So I'd like to see it either actually come up to value area low or like higher in this area before taking a short, or have it cross below VWAP and then put my stop loss above that previous high. But still, I mean, these are big moves on these 1 minute candles. So stop losses are big, got to size down a little bit. Carol, you said you're long. Are you just trailing your stop loss and you're gonna get out when it stops you out, or are you aiming to go all the way back up for that gap fill? feel like that momentum to the upside is starting to slow down a little bit. What would it be if we just put it above that previous wick high and didn't even give it room? See, even that, still 27 points. That's crazy. Possibly come back down to there. It's already moved like 200 points. That's just wild. All right, now we're starting to get some selling pressure again. Crazy to think how low we might go. Like, would we just come back down to this opening low? Or are we going to be going to like further levels? Next area I have marked off is like 21,479-ish. It's a long way down. So coming back down to this view up, let's see if buyers step back up and we get a little bit more momentum to the upside, or if sellers are going to take back control. Paul, you were saying Friday's low is serving as resistance. I didn't even mark off my previous day high and low. I forgot about those levels. Let me do that real quick. So this is Friday's low. And then previous day high. I'll go ahead and mark that off too. I have Friday's low at 21,648. Where is yours, Paul? Did I mark that wrong? Oh, that's Thursday's low. Did I do that wrong? Let me go back. No? That's what I have. Yeah, I'm curious, Paul. What's your Friday low? $21,736. Are you doing for electronic trading hours or regular trading hours? Still getting that bounce. Gold is starting to get a little bit of a bounce. So gold gapped up big time, and then it retraced as well. It's starting to get a bounce. So I'm kind of wondering if this is the end of NQ's run up and we're going to start seeing some weakness. Volume slowed for sure. I kind of thought we would get a move that like kept moving. Let's see what our risk would be if we put our stop loss at that high. About 30 points. It is holding above previous day low though. I mean, a lot of times when it gets back up above there, it can serve as support. I'm going to take a stab at it, you guys, and go ahead and sell, get in a small short. Why is it not showing? Oh, there it is. Because it was so far off the screen. Crazy. And then I'm just going to put my stop loss at that wick high. Being patient and waiting for it to cross below that anchored VWAP would definitely be the safer play, for sure. But I'm okay with that risk, taking a small position. Looks like we are going to get a bounce here, though. And then again, holding above this previous day low, like we had a pretty good bounce and now we're holding above it. A lot of times that does serve as support. So I could see it going either way. Maybe I'm a little bit biased because of the news, but I just feel like having more than a 200-point bounce after all the negative stuff going on, that just seems wild to me. So I guess part of my short is price action. Part of it too is news driven, being willing to take that risk. If we do get stopped out here, then I'll definitely wait for a higher bounce. Like perhaps we do go fill that gap and I'm totally wrong, or we come up to like value area low or somewhere higher in this region before we actually get that rejection. So we'll see. Maybe I got in too early. Still getting that bounce. All right. Looking like sellers are maintaining, or buyers are maintaining that momentum. Looks like it's about to stop me out. All right. So I was wrong. Got in too early. I wonder how high it's going to bounce. Like, is it going to hit resistance in this general area where there's that and that volume area or value area low from Friday? Or is it going to go all the way up back to that gap and point of control, which would also make sense too? Did anyone else jump in on a long on NQ? I do like having point of control being a target, and that's right where the previous close was and where that gap fill would be. So, I mean, that does kind of make sense too. Fibonacci on the drop. Like just from this low to the high, is that what you're talking about? Or from this low all the way to where the gap fill would be? So gold almost came down and filled its opening gap. Kind of makes me wonder if it's going to get a bounce at that point. So, not sure if I know exactly what you're talking about, but from the low up to where the gap fill is, trading floor 29, is that what you're talking about? I don't use Fibonacci a whole lot. I did take like one trading course on it, but that was years ago and haven't really used it. So tell me if that's what you're talking about. I drew it from the opening, the low, up to where the gap fill would be. I could do the reverse too if that's what you were talking about. I guess that would make more sense. I'll still be interested to see how far up we bounce. I could see us hitting some resistance in this general area. So let's see if my original thought played out. If I had been a little bit more patient, I jumped in here too early. See how it reacts up at value area low. If it breaks through value area low, then I do think it'll come back up to point of control, which is where Friday's close was. Because there's definitely some confluence there with the gap fill and point of control. So let's see what gold's doing. So this was where the close was. We came down and almost filled that gap. Still looking a little bit weak. Hasn't caught a bounce yet. What about crude oil? That one still has quite a ways to go if it's going to come back down and fill it. That was a big gap up. Man. Crazy stuff going on. Well, the volatility is slowing down a little bit in terms of, like, back here I was saying even these 1 minute candles are 20 to 30 points. Slowing down a bit. At this point, I don't think I'd want to take a short just off of a little bit of weakness, because that's what happened on this first stop out. I'd want to see it come up to one of the levels that I'm looking for and then show a strong rejection. Or if it rejects from here, have it get below VWAP. So kind of just being patient at this point to see if it hits any of the levels that I had in mind. Trading floor, you were asking about the Fibonacci. Are you thinking it's going to reject at this 382 level? Well, while we're waiting for price action to do something, tell me what you guys did this weekend. Anyone do anything fun? It's not really showing any signs of rejection so far. That was a strong push-up. So it's coming up to the level I was talking about, but I wouldn't want to take it just off of a level. I would want to see how it reacts there. Getting a little bit of selling pressure. Kind of stop moving. What would be the stop loss on that? 26 points. And target maybe previous day low or somewhere in this general area. Not bad. That is the level that I had in mind. So it is rejecting there. It's just a matter of, is this just a little pullback and it's going to continue higher? Or is that the last of the bounce and now it's going to go lower? All right, you guys, I'm going to take one more stab at it just because that was the level that I did have in mind originally. And if we're wrong on this one, then that's it. My rule is I'll try the same idea twice. And if I lose twice, then I'm done. Because obviously my idea was wrong. So we got that one good 1 minute candle down. Not really any continuation. My actual entry 752. Move this down. Let's see if the orange squiggly line plays out. Let's see if it works. We had a couple new people pop in here and tell me what you guys are trading right now. Anyone taking any trades on NQ? I know we have a couple people looking at gold and crude oil too. What are you guys trading right now? Or are you just watching the craziness with the open? See how the open plays out with everything that happened this weekend. Going back to sleep? Yeah. I was kind of hoping this is what would not happen. I didn't want this to happen. There are times when it opens up at the 6 o'clock Eastern time, and it opens up with some movement, and it continues even into the Asia Open. Today it opened up with some momentum, and then it just slowed down. Sophie's short on ES, cool. I'm hoping NQ will do the same. I decided it didn't want to move anywhere though. Bye, trading floor. Have a good night. So is it going to do this where it just doesn't move and no one is participating in the market right now? Or is it like gearing up for a massive move in either direction? Kind of makes me wonder. Let me pull up book map on my end. I don't normally look at book map, honestly, in the overnight session. Just because there's like no volume in general. Getting a little movement down at a snail's pace. A little bit. Yeah, so I mean, pulling that book map, there is not really anything on the heat map. All the orders are so small that there's nothing significant that really pops out at me, at least. I'm definitely not an expert on book map, but during the New York session, you can usually see where the big orders are. Right now, I just see small little like 26, 25 orders. There's some in the like 700 to 675 area. So right around here, which I think is in line with the previous day low. No, that's 648 is the previous day low. That would kind of be what I would target, unless it just got heavy, like big time heavy, and it just started dumping all of a sudden. Then I would probably target lower, like maybe even this wick low. But if it's going to continue this slow chop, then I would think Friday's low would be a decent target. We do have orders higher too, up at 850, which is right around where that point of control is. So it could end up bouncing up there. One thing I always have to remind myself of, though, is those orders that are on Bookmap, they don't necessarily have to get hit now. Like, that could be something that gets hit tomorrow morning or during the London session or something. So, don't want to let it throw me off. Sophie, with your short on ES, do you have a target in mind that you're holding for? Or are you just going to kind of see where it goes and trail your stop loss? Oh, nice. Gotta love that. Just had to log a trading day, waiting for the payout. Yep, I get that. I've definitely done that with a few, like some of those accounts where you have to trade for 10 days and have a certain consistency target. And you're like, I'm already at the consistency target. I just need to trade a couple more days. So just take like a tiny little trade, tiny little position for a minute and then get out. So I'm kind of hoping that this isn't going to continue the slow, boring grind. I'm hoping that it like is just gearing up for a bigger move here in a minute and it's just going to dump. That'd be awesome. If that was the case and we started to get some heavy momentum down to the downside, I would probably move to maybe like that wick low or maybe trail out, like take some out at previous day low and then some more down as we go. So we'll see. I don't want to put the target all the way down there though if it's going to continue this slow grind because that's just annoying. Starting to get a little more momentum down. But that's all relative because the last couple of minutes it's been moving nowhere. So it actually moved somewhere. Adding some excitement. Let's put an anchored view up on this candle right here. So if we were to get enough selling pressure that we cross below and hold below VWAP, then I would feel a lot better about this position continuing down. If we get a bounce at VWAP, then I will probably close a position or at least move my stop loss to break even. Just because that could mean that this is just a little pullback for a move higher. So that's kind of what I'm watching. Still moving slow and heading back up. With momentum. Man, that's not what I wanted to see. Put a little anchored VWAP at that high. Starting to cross above that. That's not what I wanted to see. Let's see if we can get back below it. Sellers need to show back up. So if you're trading ES, $59.82, is that like previous day low? I could see kind of where that consolidation is. Yeah, that makes sense. I'll leave my little orange squiggly line there and see if I'm right. So far, it hit that value area low. It's rejecting, but not convincingly. It's kind of chopping around there a little bit. And then if it does continue lower, how far are we going? Is this going to be just a small little pullback before we continue higher? Or are we going to be dumping it? Yep, super choppy, Paul. Not a whole lot of decision either way, honestly. It's not really the price action I was hoping for. I thought we would get a whole lot more volatility with the news going on over the weekend. Which I know the markets aren't officially open. We're kind of still in pre-market, but sometimes with news and announcements and stuff, even this time has some volatility. So we'll see how this trade plays out. It might be one of those things where just have to come back and look at the charts in a couple hours when there's a little bit more movement. But we'll let this one play out. I know this is wishful thinking, but I'd love to see it just make a decision either way. Like, come back down to VWAP and close below, or bounce off of VWAP or something. Let's get some sort of direction. Sophie, do you always trade ES or do you trade anything else? ES and NQ. Cool. I could see where that would be pretty easy to do. They move very well together. So you could almost have the same strategies on both, whatever levels you watch, or like 15-minute orb or initial balance strategy, whatever your strategy is, you could probably use on both, and then just see whichever one looks like it's a cleaner setup and trade that one. Kind of makes sense. See if we can get below this 738 level. Kind of make a new low, new local low. There's a pretty good little candle there, but with volume being so low, this kind of trading almost gets a little bit scary, just because that could be like one seller making that move and then it completely reverses and it kind of starts to get wicky and choppy. So don't want to get my hopes up too much about one candle so far. Really, I'd like to see how it reacts at this VWAP right here. Or if we're going to get some momentum down and continuation below, or if we get a bounce there. So we shall see. So this green VWAP is anchored from the high. We did get a rejection from there. It's just a matter of if we're going to get some continuation or not. Yeah, Sophie, my thought is to scale out. So I kind of it depends on price action for me. So if it continues this slow, choppy grind, I would probably fully get out at like my first level, which would be somewhere around probably this area right here, 677. Even if it even gets there, because there's not really any momentum. If it just starts to like completely dump, then I would probably get out at that first level, 683, and then another at previous day low, 648, and then hold one for 563-ish, or just trail my stop loss at that point and see how far it goes. But I usually only scale out if we're actually getting some momentum in that direction. If price action is like this and it's not moving, then I don't feel like it makes sense to wait for that home run trade. I would just, see profit, take profit, get out when I can, and get fully out at 678, somewhere around there, 680. Hope that makes sense. But yeah, I do like to scale out. Like if price action allows for it and it's actually continuing to trend in the direction I want it to, I like to scale out. Makes me feel a little bit better about catching the larger part of the move, but also secure some profits and not be too greedy and then just, get stopped out at break even or something, because it ended up coming back down to my entry. So that's what I normally do. So I have my Hail Mary home run target set down here. But yeah, I'll probably start to scale out before then. If we get down to VWAP, I'm going to go ahead and move to break even. Just because that could be an area for a possible bounce. And if this whole move ends up just being a retrace to bounce and continue higher, I don't want to be stuck in a losing position. So VWAP is kind of a line in the sand, in my opinion. I'd like to see it break below that before I feel confident about this continuing lower. Starting to feel less confident about this short. Just because sellers are not taking control. Keeps just chopping around here. So we're getting a little price pinch between these VWAPs, which if I wasn't in a position already, this would be a good time to be patient and wait for it to break out to either side. Because if it breaks above that high anchor VWAP and holds, it could be a good spot for longs. If it breaks below and holds, it could be a good spot for shorts. So we're kind of right in the middle. And since I'm already in a position, I kind of just have to wait and see how it goes. So what kind of strategies do you guys use? Does anyone else here use VWAP or volume profile, anything like that? Or what do you guys use? Price is definitely pinching here. Again, if I wasn't already in a position, this would be a good time to wait. There's not a whole lot of volume, so it's hard to say that like when it does break out, it's going to be an aggressive move. It still might be moving slow, but one of these sides is going to win. We're going to get some direction out of it. VWAP, volume profile, and pivots. I haven't gotten into pivots. I know I've seen a couple people use it, but that's one thing that I've never really looked into. I could see where it could definitely complement volume profile though, because like I use volume profile to find areas of high volume and use those as support and resistance levels. And from my like basic understanding of pivot points, which isn't much, that it's similar. Like those are points of interest where price could potentially reverse, or support and resistance levels. Nine and 21 EMAs using the 5-minute time frame for trending days. Yeah, I like the last part that you put, on trending days. That's the key right there. Same thing with VWAP though. Like any sort of line that's supposed to show you momentum and like possibly bouncing off of the EMA or bouncing off of VWAP, if it's a choppy, like rangy kind of day, you can get so chopped up in those kind of days. You have to wait for a trending day where it could potentially bounce and like can continue in that direction. It's not always easy to tell what kind of day it is. Never really gotten into ICT. I definitely my eyes pay attention to fair value gaps and stuff like that, but I think that's about it in terms of ICT. All right, kind of starting to move down a little bit towards VWAP. And then it goes back up. Yeah, there's just no continuation either way. Like I said, there's this pinch going on here. Someone's going to end up winning. Don't know who it's going to be yet. Who was it? Carol Songen? If you're still here, are you still long? I want to know if you're still holding your long position. Man, I wish this would do something. When price action is like this is when I end up getting in trouble. Because I can feel myself starting to get impatient. It's like I wish it would just go up or go down. I don't care, you know. Just make a decision. And when I start to feel like that, I know I'm in trouble. We need Trump to tweet? Yeah. Something negative, preferably. Not something about, it wouldn't be good. I mean, I feel terrible saying this out loud, because obviously ending the war and like coming to a resolution would be a very good thing. But in terms of my position, that would not be a good thing. Again, I preface that by saying that that's a terrible thing to say out loud, but hopefully you guys know what I mean. Bull flag breakout coming. Don't tell me that, Coach Set. Yeah, that's something that I was kind of watching, honestly. That's why I said if it does get down here to VWAP, I'm going to move my stop loss to break even. Because I'm wondering if this is kind of just a retrace before continuation higher. And it is kind of starting to look like a little flag consolidation, perhaps. But I'm going to delete those lines because I don't even want to put that out into the universe. It's just going to dump. That's what I'm hoping. And hopefully this turtle's pace increases a little bit too. All right, there's VWAP. What are we going to get? We're going to get a bounce. We're going to get continuation lower. What's it going to be? Looks like we might be getting a bounce. So I did what I said I was going to. Moved my stop loss to break even. Just because I could see where if we are going to get continuation higher to close that gap, VWAP would be a good spot to bounce from. So I want to get out if that's the case. If not, if we get continuation lower, then I'm safe either way. Coach Sat, you said your computer is wonky after adding new VWAP and volume profile. Did you get like some new indicators or something? Or are you just trying out some new indicators? And now you have too many and it's running slow, or what? What happened? So I don't typically flip like long to short. But if this does end up being a bounce off of that VWAP and it passes above the high anchored VWAP, I'm not opposed to taking a long and going for that gap fill, which is also right in line with the point of control from Friday. It was right up here at like 860, I think was the point of control. Let me look at my trading view. Point of control from Friday is at like 861, which is right in line with where that gap fill would be. So if we were to do that, just to kind of show what the risk would be, stop loss would be 20 points or so, going all the way up to point of control. That's a really good risk to reward. So again, I'm not opposed to flipping if that's what's going to happen. Which it kind of looks like it might. Let's see how it reacts at this anchored VWAP on the high. See if we get continuation above it or if it rejects. So today, my anchors right now I have are one at the low, so this opening candle, which was the low for today, and then I have one up at the high. So that's kind of where price is pinching between these two. So it had a pretty good bounce off of that low of day VWAP, and it's right at the high of day VWAP. So it's kind of at a point where it could reject or it could close above. So just kind of want to watch and see how it's going to react at this level. Kind of looks like it wants to go higher. So what would the stop loss be there? 27, 26. And then go back up to that point of control gap fill area. I mean, that's a nice risk to reward. But I would want to wait until it actually closes above that, because it could just as easily reject and continue lower. Kind of in that no trade zone for me, at least. Sophie, are you still in your short on ES, or did you get out? All right. So getting some momentum above that anchor VWAP. I'm gonna go ahead and go long, just because, like I said, the risk to reward on it is pretty decent. Could have been a little bit early because I didn't wait for that candle closure. Let's see if we get some continuation up. So 860 is point of control, 870-ish would be the gap fill. My entry is 759, so I'll make this adjustment. So that 1 minute candle did close above that anchor VWAP. But I mean, so did these ones, and then it ended up rejecting. So that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Oh, trading ES. Why'd you go with ES instead of NQ? I'm curious. So looking at Bookmap, we do have quite a few orders up at 850, which is pretty close to where I was talking about with the point of control and gap fill. A little bit below that. So we'll see if it ends up getting up there. At this pace, it might take us 3 hours to get there, but you never know. There's a little tiny push. Oh yeah, the quant reversion. Did you set up your envelopes? We're actually, if you're talking about the envelope, I didn't watch that video, but I was at the boot camp in Florida, and his talk was all about the envelopes. And we're actually at the bottom of the envelope bouncing off of it. So I didn't even look at that. I didn't have that indicator turned on. I have it on my other screen. So, hey, maybe that's another confluence for being long. See if we can get above this high for the day, 21.75. Hey Russell, how's it going? Welcome, welcome. Yeah, I agree. Different strategies, different risk management. So in terms of my strategy, I typically trade the New York Open. And at that time, I trade the 15-minute opening range, and then the 60-minute opening range, 60-minute initial balance, I guess you can call it, specifically like failed auctions or trend continuation. And then I like to use anchored VWAPs for like confluence on a lot of stuff. So today I have an anchored VWAP at the low, which is basically the opening candle, and then I have an anchored VWAP at the high, and ended up taking this long since we broke above that anchored VWAP. But honestly, not great price action. It's kind of just moving slow, not getting any continuation in either direction. So not good at trading. Probably shouldn't even be taking trades. Yeah, it was a good conference. I learned a lot. And not so much about like strategy and stuff. They did talk about that, but I think the biggest thing for me was seeing that it was real and possible. Like, you know, on YouTube, you see all the stuff like the influencers that are making $80,000 a month and they're driving Lambos and like have mansions in a cottage in the forest with a lake view. It just seems to me like so out there and like unachievable, I guess. I don't want to say unachievable because I know it's possible, but it just seems so not normal. But going to the conference and seeing a whole stage full of people that are like normal people making a normal living off of it, it just made it seem a lot more real. Like just decent 5-figure a month incomes that like I could wrap my brain around, you know? Not millions and millions of dollars a year. That's just so far off in my future that I can't even relate to that. So I think that was the biggest takeaway, is like seeing that this trading thing is actually possible. And it was cool too to see that everyone had a different strategy, but everyone made money. Like there were times when we actually traded together as a group, like the whole conference room was trading together. And there was a stage of people up front that were talking about their strategy and like why they entered and what their confluences were. And there were several people that were in the exact same trade, but for totally different reasons. So that was kind of cool to see too. Because you always hear about how like there's never a perfect strategy and not some perfect indicator. And that was like proof of it right there. So that was pretty cool. Yep, risk management is the key for sure. Definitely an area that I think most people need to improve on. Unless you're a super profitable, consistent trader, then you have it down. But if you're still working on consistent payouts, then it's probably due to risk management and not due to your strategy. So yeah, I agree with you, Russell. Yeah, I'm not liking this price action, you guys. It's not moving the way I'm used to with continuation in either direction. It's kind of choppy. So I'm going to let this trade play out and then probably wrap it up. We'll see if we get a bounce back to the upside though. A lot of times if the anchored VWAP play is going to play out, it is possible that it'll break out to the upside, retrace a little bit before continuing in that direction. So that's a possibility too. Yeah, Russell, I've definitely had points where I'm like so close to a payout and then I screw it up and like tilt and have a really big red day or something. It's like self-sabotage. It's got to be something that's in our heads if we're doing that. Because I've had that happen before too. Like I'm super consistent. I have several green days in a row. I'm feeling great. I'm reading the market really well. And then as soon as I get to that payout, or as soon as I look at my stats and realize that I'm doing really well, then the next day I sabotage it or mess it up. So I'm getting better at that. I don't have as many of those days. But it's a real thing where your head kind of gets in the way. I think one of the biggest things is you have to treat every day the same. Like, whether you're having a losing streak or a winning streak, you're about to get a payout, you're super far from a payout, whatever it is, you have to go through the same routine. Like, get your mind right, mark your levels, go through your trading plan, manage your risk the same, make sure your sizing is the same. Have the same level of confidence. Like sometimes we get nervous with our trades and we trail our stop loss too tight or move our targets or something if we're like trading with fear. So if you start to do any of those things, stop yourself and reevaluate. If you're trading differently, that could probably be part of the problem. Russell, do you use the lockout feature on, I guess the first question would be, do you use Project X or Trade-Evate? What do you trade on? You're using Tradeify. So Tradeify has NinjaTrader or Trade-Evate, yeah. So on there, it's not as good as the Project X lockout in my opinion, but Trade-Evate does have a lockout where you can put in a personal daily loss limit and a personal profit target to where if you hit either one of those, it'll close out your trades for the day and like lock you out. If you're not using those, I would recommend it for sure. Because that's key to risk management. You have to have a certain amount that you're not willing to risk more than that per day. And I actually just did a video I released today that you can go watch. It might be helpful. But I kind of lay out like how to calculate what your daily loss limit should be based on your prop firm like total loss limit for the account before you blow your account. And then from there, once you figure out what your daily loss limit is, break it down to how much you're going to risk per trade. But once you find out what your daily loss limit is, go into NinjaTrader and enter that so that it forces you to be locked out and walk away and not trade anymore. Because if you're anything like me, like when I used to have those full tilt moments where I would blow my account, it was because I would hit my daily loss limit, but I would keep trading because I thought I was smarter than the market and I thought I could pull my account back out of the red. And then, that starts the spiral to where you start to oversize and get frustrated and take bad trades and overtrade. And before you know it, your account's blown. So if you're not already, set those lockout features. I don't know if you've heard this before, but this helps me a lot too, is there's like a hierarchy of trades. So there's a big green day, a small green day, a small red day, and then a big red day. As long as you can eliminate the big red days, you can be a profitable trader. You can take payouts. Like profitable, really, really good, the best traders in the world, they have small red days. It's eliminating the big red days is what we all need to focus on. And to do that, you can do that by setting those lockout features so that you don't let yourself keep trading and blowing up your account. I'm actually going to pull up that video that I'm talking about because maybe it'll help you. And I'll put it in the chat. And I only say this stuff because I've done it too. Not saying that I'm better. It's just because I've been there, done that. So that link right there is the video that I just released with like how to calculate what your daily risk should be and entering the lockout features on your prop firm and stuff. Oh, Russell, you have a much better entry than I do. Nice. Well, hopefully we get some continuation higher. Well, while we're waiting for this slow price action to actually make a decision on where it wants to go, if you guys haven't already, I would appreciate it if you would go hit the like button. Still in the process of growing my channel, so that'll help kind of get the word out, help the YouTube algos. All right, starting to get a little bounce. Let's see if we can get some continuation, make a little higher high. So, kind of like I was saying a few minutes ago, I entered this long because we did break above this anchored VWAP from the high. And it's not uncommon for it to break above, have a little pullback before it continues above. So I'm kind of hoping that that's what's happening right now. If not, then I have my stop loss at this previous wick low. In case I'm wrong, which I might be. Where are you guys tuning in from? I would assume most of you are US, Canada-ish area. Lots of places in the country are still like middle of the night. Yeah. I'm with you on that, Coach Set. It's a big target up there if it's gonna continue this slow grind. That's gonna take 3 hours to get there. Might be one of those things where just kind of move the stop loss into profit. Like if it starts to come a little higher, just move the stop loss to like break even and set it and forget it, and maybe it'll fill during the London session because London usually moves a little bit better. I don't know, we'll see. Oahu, that's fun. Canada got a heat wave going on. Oh, Georgia, the country, not the state. Love it. I love how I just specify that, which is totally true. How hot is it in Toronto, Russell? I'm curious what hot is for you guys. I'm in the Houston, Texas area, so we get hot and humid. It feels like being in a sauna when I'm just in my backyard. Just walk outside and it's like walking into a sauna at a gym. Like seriously, people pay hundreds of dollars a month for a gym membership so they can use a sauna, and I just have to go outside. Memphis, Tennessee. (35°C). All right, gotta do a little conversion here. I'm a Fahrenheit girl. Oh, that's like 95 degrees Fahrenheit. That's pretty hot. That is hot. It's usually around that for us too, 95 to 98 degrees Fahrenheit. and then plus the humidity. We got a couple Tennessee people. Murfreesboro. That's a tongue twister. Murfreesboro. Am I saying it right? Oh. How far is Murfreesboro from Memphis? Are you guys close to each other? Randy and Coach Set? All right, I said it right. I wonder if you get comments like when people ask you where you're from and you say Murfreesboro and they're like, what? How do you spell that? Say that again. Three hours away. Not too bad. It's always interesting though, because I mean, people on these YouTube streams are from all over the world. So out of 25 viewers, having two people that are only a couple hours away from each other, that's kind of cool. Y'all are practically neighbors. All right, so Russell, you said you're in a long. What are you targeting? Are you going to hold it until the gap fill and kind of just trail your stop loss? Or do you have a shorter target before then? There's quite a bit of resistance here in that area. I could see where we get a little rejection there if we ever get up there. And then we have point of control at 860, and we have that gap fill at 870. All right, let's see if we can get a little higher high here. Break up above this 771, 774 area. That would be nice. Yeah, I don't think that's a bad move, Russell. Do I ever use the 15-minute orb on overnight open? I haven't. Honestly, I don't trade Asia that often. So no, I haven't really marked 15-minute orbs. I don't like the way Asia moves that much. The only reason I signed on tonight is just because I was expecting quite a bit of volatility with all the war news and everything going on. I like the way London moves a lot more. But, you know, that's like 2 o'clock in the morning for me. So don't normally trade London. Every once in a while, I'll catch like a mid London session move if I'm up early for like a workout or something and it just hits a key level. But no, I don't really mark off the 15-minute or 60-minute initial balance or anything like that with those sessions. What time do I normally trade? I usually trade the New York Open. New York Open is where I like sit down formally in front of my computer and mark off the 15-minute range and the 60-minute initial balance and all that. I mark off key support and resistance levels that are kind of more like higher time frame stuff. So if London early in the morning, because I'm up early, like I go work out at 5 o'clock in the morning. So if I happen to look at my phone or my computer that early and it's at a key level and I just happen to be at the right place at the right time, then I'll take a trade. But that's pretty rare. So normally within the first couple of hours of the New York session, which I'm Central Standard Time, so 8:30 a.m. to 10:30, 11-ish, usually like 2 to 2.5 hours. I find that if I'm trading after that, then I'm over trading or looking for a setup that isn't there, and I start to take bad trades and make bad decisions. Also, volume typically starts to die down at that point, so price action just doesn't move in the way that I'm used to. So that's kind of my main times, first couple hours of the New York Open. David Lettner, what about you? Do you mark off the 15-minute orb on other sessions? Do I have any rules about number of trades a day? I'll be totally transparent with you. I should, but I don't. I know that in my head, like when I start to trade too much, it's not good. But I think my rules are more based off of daily loss limit. So I have a certain amount that I'm not willing to lose more than, and I have lockout set on my account. So I think that forces me to take fewer trades. But I don't really limit it to like the number of trades. It's more the amount of dollars that I'm willing to lose. Looking at my journals though, like my data, if I have a day where I take less than 5 days, I'm a lot more likely to be, less than 5 trades, sorry. If I take less than 5 trades, then I'm a lot more likely to be green than a day where I take like 6, 7, 8 trades. Those are usually days where I'm trying to make up for losses and then I start to spiral and it's like a really red day. So less trades is better. Yeah, David, I've actually heard some people mention that they mark off like the London opening high and low and the London midpoint and all this stuff and how it's like an area of support and resistance in the New York session. And I just feel like that's way too many lines on a chart for me. I mark the Asia high and low and the London high and low, and sometimes there's like liquidity sweeps, but I don't mark all the 15-minute ranges and everything for every session. All right, starting to get some selling pressure. Looks like we're going to get some momentum to the downside and get stopped out. I'll let it go ahead and play out. Derek asked, am I funded? I have my XFAs, top step XFAs. And then I do have some instant funded accounts. That's usually what I go with. So I have my top step XFAs, and then I have top one futures are the other sim funded accounts I use. But it looks like we're gonna have 2 losses today in this session. Might have to close up shop and come back again in the New York session. Try again. Well, my initial bias today was down, and the first trade I took was a short because I was thinking it would bounce off of the value area low and go down. Those 2 trades didn't work out. This was a break-even trade. That one I got into early. But it looks like, I mean, at this point with that momentum down, it looks like we did just have a bounce and now we're coming lower. But I don't want to enter another trade just because this price action is so slow and I can feel myself starting to get impatient, and I don't want to be flip-flopping back and forth, long and short, long and short. So looks like I'm going to get stopped out, and that'll be 2 losses for the day. So I'll be done. I appreciate you guys joining me, though. I had fun chatting with y'all. Like the stream if you don't mind before you head out. Other than that, trade safe if you guys are going to keep trading. Have a good night, y'all. Thanks for joining me. Have a good one.